Hi, I'm Marco Flaminio, and I'm choosing for my oral presentation ethical consumption, not only in the United States, other countries' view on ethical consumption and what makes us different than all the other countries. This topic is something that is widely discussed, usually about meat consumption, different aspects of tobacco use, different brand identities, also with alcohol consumption as well. So, would you let your child smoke? That's something us Americans try to teach our kids for health purpose to make the right choices. So we do not want to let our kids start smoking. But when the FDA reported from the increase in 2018 and 2019 in high school students who use the tobacco product, which we know now as vaping, which is a high nicotine flavored oil that's easily concealable and you would never know that it's nicotine or tobacco compared to an actual cigarette that you can smell, and every day, like when people smoke it, it's just like that very tobacco-y bad smell that we all just don't like. So with Juul, a huge company relatively new to the market, made a $38.5 billion, but also the FDA has filed many lawsuits equaling up to 24 billion, which they claim it's advertising. They chose the wrong approach, which entitled more teenagers to start using tobacco products, which is why the age limit now to smoke tobacco or have any vaping product is now 21 years of age. So that's a big jump from the values us in America have adopted when you can buy a pack of cigarette at 16 years of age. Then they chose 18 years of age, and now to consume a cigarette, you have to be 21 years of age. When we think of the determinants of civil society, us in the United States have adopted a code of ethics, as in what we eat, how we treat other people, and mainly we choose to do the right thing. We're also giving laws to exhibit different things, as in we don't eat our companion pets. We treat them as we would like to be treated ourselves. But in other countries, they choose and think of it as a delicacy to consume a dog or a cat or any exotic animal of their choice. As the conspiracy with COVID-19 and using China as a prime example, they did that a bat, which was sold at a wet market for consumption, which us as Americans are not taught that sort of food intake. We are mostly based off the beef products and chicken or turkey, but the exotics are usually against the law here, which we abide by because our code of ethics that we follow. So, with the consumption of a bat, allegedly started this whole entire COVID pandemic. Do we know if it's accurate? We don't, but as long as our president's telling us that's where it's all stemming from, we put in what they boast out to us so we can believe it. We'd like to be informed. So with formal and informal groups, we talk about the FDA or everyday online discussion forums, such as blogs and vlogs, where people follow and are giving choices of what they would like to learn. Where the formal groups, such as like the FDA, they help protect us as Americans from what we consume, so we're not taking in anything toxic just for higher profit from these companies. With self regulation in the United States, we're given many choices. We can become vegan if we'd like, we can become vegetarian, or you can be a straight meat eater, nobody thinking twice. But if you look in other countries, they're not given that opportunity to eat certain meats. Some people live in very rural, dry areas, and eating anything of a protein source is a blessing and a treat, which it's not given to them often. So with the media's take on like ethical things, they keep us in the loop and they keep us informed of different health like violations. As you can see in certain meat products, we have mad cow disease, and also after watching the documentary on Cowspiracy, it gave me some realization that I always thought a factory or some sort of warehouse production facility would let off more pollutants, but come out that the amount of meat that we consume in the United States is appalling to see the pollutants that these animals let off. Which later on in the documentary, it explained where they come and how they come about, which later on in this show I will discuss a little more in depth. But the media gives us a sense of knowledge to give us that option to make our own opinion and judgment based off what certain companies tell us and things of that sort. So, within an active civil society, we're giving the opportunity as Americans to be on the same page and become more aware of everything that goes on in a day-to-day basis, especially with the choices that we have the opportunity to make because it's a free country. When we talk about what's ethical, a long time ago, slavery was legal and a way to get a good produced. It's just how it was for many, many years, which made these companies a lot of money because they're not paying out in labor force. The only thing they were paying out is to keep them healthy and fed, but no source of income, lived on a farm, made a lot of money, especially in the cotton industry. Speaking of the cotton industry, we think of child labor, forced labor, and what happens in other countries. As Americans, we adopt Nike and expect them to be a very honest, trustworthy company since we invest lots of money into their clothing and footwear. But come to find out from the media, we see that Nike, amongst Samsung and many other major brands that feed us a sense of trust in their company. But in other countries, they have adopted forced labor, child labor, and many other things of that sort. But we would like to think, since we live in the United States, that it's the same way here as it is anywhere else. But according to articles and many other tabloids, they explain that these factories are all forced labor, which they have barbed wires around and are forced against their will to move to certain other areas of the region to produce these man-made items for these huge corporations. And upon statistics, 83% of international companies from footwear to electronics use these methods in China. Do we find that ethical, or is that just because it's the way they conduct business in that country? But us as Americans, if we find it unethical, we still continue to feed these powerful corporations because we enjoy their clothing. So it leads us with a 50-50 kind of discussion between them. Like, we'd like to talk that we don't like it and we know they have child labor, but yet we continue to buy their products. So, as I said earlier, we'd get into the meat consumption. After watching Cowspiracy, I can see how the animals are treated, how much land is being damaged due to pollutants from massive herds, and also the pollutants that they let go, as in from feces and urine, as well as the GMOs, the steroids, and the antibiotics that they pump into these animals to get them bigger, thicker, more meatier, which appeals to the American people. The amount of meat consumption we have in the United States is beyond what I could ever imagine, especially how much they say that we intake in a weekly basis, which is very appalling. And it shows why we have a very bad health decline right now. So, with those pollutants, we don't think that it would cause any harm and contribute to global warming. But here come to find out that our ethical decisions to continue to eat meat continue to make our planet decline more and more and more. So with these businesses, we like to put faith into them and trust, like I said before, we hope they have an ethical obligation to follow our code of conduct, not just in the United States, but also throughout the countries they help incorporate business to those dwindling countries. But we'd like to see a legal way. We want to see them obey the law. We don't want to see child labor, forced labor. What we in the United States, we should be able to see in other countries as well. Economically, it might be great in the United States to have more jobs and to have labor laws, but in other countries, we can decide what these major corporations. So we hope they make the right decision to be more aware of something other than a profit and feeding out shareholders. We'd like them to make ethical decisions and continue to expand their companies, make jobs, and obey the law, and let us put trust in that company like we once did before. Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope it made you aware of some of the things that go on in society and how we can make the decision because we're given that freedom. Thank you.